Hi, this is Gary Dranow from Parks in Utah and the Gary Dranow Show, proudly broadcasting to you from Radio Evolve Rocks in Santa Barbara, California. Listen more and evolve. This is the Gary Dranow Show, where we dive deep into the lives and legacies of artists who've shaped the sound of modern music. My guest today is Derek Shulman, a man whose career truly defines reinvention. Best known as the lead vocalist and founding member of Gentle Giant, Derek helped pioneer one of the most adventurous and musically sophisticated bands of the 1970s. Born in 1947 in Glasgow, Scotland, and raised in a family of musicians, his path towards creativity was almost destined. But Derek's story didn't stop with Gentle Giant. After more than a decade of groundbreaking records and tours, he transitioned from stage to boardroom, becoming one of the most influential music executives of the late 20th century. As an A&R leader and a label president, he signed or championed major acts including Bon Jovi, Pantera, Dream Theater, and many others. Now Derek's sharing the extraordinary life in his forthcoming memoir, Giant Steps, a revealing and inspiring look at his journey through fame, artistry, and the evolution of the music business itself. Derek, welcome to my podcast. It's an honor to have you on, and my more than 750,000 subscribers will be excited to get to know you.
It's a pleasure here to meet you and your subscribers. It's my pleasure.
Good, man. Derek, your new memoir, Giant Steps, offers an incredible look at both your time as a performer and as an executive. What inspired you to write it now after decades of success in both arenas?
Um, well, I was inspired, if you like, by a friend of mine who was the book editor of the New York Times. And we would go out to dinner. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago, but this is before COVID. And I tell him stories about what I'd been up to. This is even many years ago. And he kept saying, "You should write a book." And I kept saying, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, sure, sure, sure." You know, um,
No easy task, huh?
and he said, "Well, all you need to do is sit down for a couple of hours, put it aside, close off all your phones and everything else." And right before in 2019, um, he kept saying, we had him a little more, and he said, "Did you start yet?" And he pushed me to basically start writing about what I'd done over my life, if you like. And it was a chore. And to be honest with you, I found it hard to sit there for 2 or 3 hours and go through the bullet points and expand them, and because I'd look at my phone and I'd pick up and I'd do something else. So I eventually did about 60, 70 pages, and then COVID hit. And during COVID, uh, I was unfortunately one of the first to actually get COVID. I mean, right.
Oh, man.
Yeah, no kidding. And I was very lucky. My doctor said you dodged a bullet because it didn't go down to my chest or anything like that. At the same time, my daughter-in-law, my son's wife, had COVID, and unfortunately, he died at the same, of COVID at that time.
Oh,
There was nothing, there was no vaccine. But I was isolated in my bedroom for 6 weeks and with a TV on and a laptop. And so that inspired me, despite the fact that I felt lousy, just to do something. And that made me get back into writing my memoirs. And so I wrote about 120, 130 pages then. And then I started putting it down because I got involved with the catalog. And a couple of years ago, I kept looking at it saying, I've got to get back to this. I was introduced to a friend of my son's, who apparently had written a couple of books, but wanted to help me finish off the book. And so I said, let's do it this way. Let me talk to you about what I want, and he'd transcribe it. His name was John Widerhorn, and he helped me basically to finish the book. And we finished it at the end of last year. And lo and behold, in 2025, I had a book, and had agents and a couple of publishers said, yes, we'd like to be involved. And Giant Steps was born. And it's coming out in about 3 weeks in North America.
So our timing could not be better. The title Giant Steps feels symbolic of growth, change, and perhaps a tribute to your musical evolution. What does the phrase mean to you personally?
Well, exactly that. I mean, the name Giant, Gentle Giant, obviously is part of why it's called Giant Steps. My steps in my life from growing up, well, being born in the Gorbals of Glasgow to living in, Portsmouth, England, and my steps evolutionary in the music business are part of what Giant Steps is about. I, you know, I won't say it's a rags to riches, but by any means, but certainly it's a rags to um, fulfilling my musical dreams, if you like, and being authentic in my life.
That is a fantastic bedrock for your story. When you revisited your past to write Giant Steps, did you uncover any moments that surprised you or stories that you had forgotten until now?
Oh yeah, well, when I started off doing it, I called my brothers and had them do some reminiscing, and I had it on tape, and they remembered things that I remembered, but not quite as in much detail. But certainly there were many both interesting and good and not so good things that we went through and I went through in various stages in my career in music. To be honest with you, the book could have been twice as long, uh, and it was very hard to cut it to make it about 300 plus pages because it could have been 600 because there were so many other things that I could have put in there. As both a performer as and growing up in music and being part of the an amazing situation in England in the mid 60s and late 60s when everything happened and when the Beatles happened and the Beatles
When
changed
when
everything.
Jimi Hendrix came to England, um, so many American bands really got their start in England. Isn't that true?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But 100%. It's the whole musical culture in England and I think the rest of the world ultimately started in, I guess, 62, 63. And I just remember Love Me Do when I heard that on the radio.
Love, love me do.
That was it. That was the inspiration and the kickoff point for me to say, I knew I was going to be in music because that was in my family, but that was when I said, I'm going to be in a group and I'm going to be in a big group and music is going to be my life.
And it
Uh,
started with Derek Dupree and the Big Sound, right?
Simon Dupree and the Pixies, yes, it did. Yep. And
How, I'm sorry. Keep,
go ahead.
how did writing about your transition from frontman to executive help you see your own career differently, if it did?
Yeah, well, it did. When I look back, there's some incredible highs and some amazing lows, but some incredible highs and highlights and highs in both the performing area and the recording time, and of course in the executive time. And for a high, if you like, I remember when we finished off, um, when we went to Vancouver with Bon Jovi on his third album, and we came back to New York, and having brought his co-writer Desmond Child and introduced him to Desmond, and having had listened to that album before it came out, Slippery When Wet, and I knew then that that was going to be one of the biggest ever, records that not just John Bon Jovi and what Bon Jovi would have, but the world has seen. And that high was an incredible one. However, when I look back, and having had other successes in, if you like, in those kind of areas as an executive. Um, there's nothing like looking back and realizing that the bigger highs for me were um, performing and recording, ultimately. I'm a musician. Even though I became an executive for two-thirds of my life, if you like, and had some fairly good successes, but ultimately, music and playing music and writing music was the biggest high for me. And I just remembered, if you like, one of the highs was when we played Los Angeles in 1975, 76, the Shrine Auditorium. And Gentle Giant, we sold it out. It was about 8,000 people, and we finished our set. And we were on fire that night. We were,
Just so you know, I was in the audience.
wow, is that true?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, then you remember that the story that which the audience wouldn't leave. If you remember that,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
we did our encore, but they wouldn't leave, and we did.
Encore after encore. We were wild.
Yeah, and ultimately we didn't know any more music, so we had to play. We when we did a sort of a tune up when before the show, we play in the midnight hour or something. It's crazy. That's all we had left, and that was the last encore because no one would leave. I mean, 7 or 8 thousand people were still, and with the lights up, they just wouldn't leave. And I remember that high, uh, that we were really good. I mean, we were on fire that night, and that high that the audience refused to leave the auditorium is something which is never to be forgotten, basically.
If I remember, were you wearing pajamas that night?
No, it was a jumpsuit. It
No.
looked like pajamas. It was a white jumpsuit, which I regret every time I look at it.
Little Elvis going on.
I don't know what I was thinking, to tell you the truth.
We're going to take our first break. It's a 2 minute break and stay tuned.
I will fly a yellow paper sun in your sky. When the wind is high, when the wind is high, I will float a silk and silver moon near your window. If your night is dark, if your night is dark, in letters of gold on a snow white kite, I will write, I love you, and send it soaring high above you for all to read. I will scatter rice paper stars in your heaven. If there are no stars, if there are no stars, all of these and 7 wonders more will I fly. When the wind is high, when the wind is high, in letters of gold on a snow white kite, I will write, I love you, and send it soaring high above you.
Were there lessons or truths you felt compelled to include in the book for younger musicians or executives who might follow in your footsteps? I know from my journey into the beginning chapters of Giant Steps has me engrossed and eager to delve deeper into the fascinating story. So, what footsteps might younger musicians or executives take from the book?
I think that I would like anyone, not just music people, but anyone reading the book too, um, know that I use the word authentic again, being yourself and doing things that are yours and not copying or following. And yeah, again, do something that is yours, whatever it is. And if you're a follower, you'll never ever be. I mean, there's a whole world out there today. The kids want to be rich and famous tomorrow. No, put in the work and be authentic and do something that is yours. The fact that you asked me prior, what's the highs and lows? When I think about, the executive side, I've been involved in some incredible times and with incredible bands. But there's nothing like opening a blank page, literally, personally, and thinking, what am I going to write in this page? And it comes from there, and it comes from there, and it comes from there. It's not AI generated, it's not computer generated. It comes from your gut and your soul, and it's yours. So hard work and authenticity and being yourself and not worrying what other people think about it, and then put in work yourself and work your ass off. And then you
Mhm.
might be then become really good at what you do.
Uh, I hope I'm there. I
Oh,
uh,
yeah, you are.
I play every Monday night live stream, and I get 60 to 80,000 views per live stream. So I, I I need to get out and play out more is what I need to do. Hey, in the early 1990s, you helmed Atco and Atlantic Records. Our mutual friend Larry Devoskin, who introduced you to this show, first worked with Bad Company, who were just inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on November 8th. Larry
Mhm.
told me that when Bad Company's manager, Bud Prager, first called you about having him remix Walk Through Fire, your response was, "Who the F is Larry DeVoskin?" Eventually, Larry worked on several Bad Company projects and later became a co writer with Simon Kirke. The story highlights your instinct for connecting talented people. Do you see this as part of your creative DNA?
Yeah, I think that I was really happy that Bad Company was in fact on Atlantic at that time, and um, they were they were in the process of they had a new singer, Brian Howell, and he was not liked by both Atlantic and unfortunately the band. He didn't get on well with the band, and Atlantic were considering to drop Bad Company. The very same thing happened with AC/DC. And I said to Bud Prager, he said, "Listen, Atlantic are not happy about what we have with Bad Company. Would you like to take the realms over or the helm over?" And I said, "Sure," because the reason why was because first of all, I love Bad Company. I love what they did originally, but with Brian Howe in the band, um, Mick Ralphs and Simon, they didn't really get on well. But I got on well with him because he was born and in the same place that I grew up in Portsmouth, England. And in fact, I remembered him coming to our rehearsals and peering in. So I could say to Brian, shut the F up,
Mhm.
and not be sort of frowned upon or him saying, what do you know? Etc. He knew that no band, in fact, could say to me, you don't know what it's like to do this, to do that, etc. Because I
Because you've been there, done it.
exactly that. So when I took that over, we worked with Larry, worked with me as well as Terry Thomas, the producer. And instead of getting dropped, we had a number one album with Holy Water, and I brought them all the way back.
Wow. You've
So,
worn both the artist hat and the executive suit. How did the dual perspective influence the stories and insights in Giant Steps?
well, I'd like to tell the stories behind these various situations. The same thing happened with AC/DC. They were literally getting dropped by Atlantic.
Was this Bon Scott era,
No, no, this was Brian.
Brian? Hmm.
Yeah, but they were they had just had two albums, was a flick of the switch and one other prior, and their deal was heavy. And the president of Atlantic was going to drop them. And I heard about this. I said, "You can't
Was he
drop."
insane? I mean, what was the deal?
Well, the deal was hard. It was an expensive deal. But yeah, because it was a high deal and their last two albums didn't do well. So I heard about this and I said his name was Doug Morris. I said, Doug, here, I came into Atco and I had actually already on the label, there were several holdovers, if you like. And one was the Stevie Nicks and another was Pete Townsend. And I said to him, I'll tell you what, I will trade you Stevie Nicks for me taking on AC/DC. And he said, sure, because otherwise they're going to be dropped. And so I had AC/DC on my label. And thankfully, I had the thumbs up from their brother George in England, who was their first producer, because he was in a group called the Easy Beats. And he remembered my name, having been in Simon Dupree and the Big Sound. We played several shows together. And he said to Malcolm and Angus, if it's the same Derek Shulman that was in Simon Dupree, then you could trust him. So that opened the door for me to be trusted by Angus and Malcolm, and they let me in. And I said to them, "Listen, guys, let's put together an album that brings you all the way back, and be who you should be. The best rock and roll band in the world." And I introduced them to my go-to producers in Vancouver, Bob Rock and Bruce Fairburn and Mike Fraser. And they got involved and they started writing. We went out to Vancouver and we recorded The Razor's Edge. We came back and we put out Thunderstruck and AC was back.
Huge, just a
Yeah,
huge song.
yeah. So
Um, Continue.
no, that's I mean that was and then we had the live album. But that those are the kind of things that that's something that I think I always had with the musicians is that they trusted me because once again there wasn't anything they could say or do that I hadn't seen on the other side of the stage.
As you look back over your decades in music, what do you hope readers and listeners will take away from the book?
Well, I think that as I said, to be yourself and don't follow other people and don't and also if you're a musician, play music, pick up an instrument and master it and be really, really good at it. Not really good, be great at it before you even think about a career in music. And then go out and play in front of people and see if people like you. Because just going out there and with a computer or AI or whatever it is, yeah, you could have a song or something that sounds pretty or something else, but it's not you. Do it yourself. And the other thing is that I would say is that stay away from um, what should I say? Chemi-
Plagiarism or
no. Stay away from chemicals and
drugs?
drugs and
Yeah.
anything else that will interfere with your life and your health. Because you're not better when you're high. You're just high. Uh,
Yeah, and health is everything. I mean, I'm 71 years old and I never because I was an athlete and I never did drugs and I think I'm young at 71 because of it. So your advice is golden.
well, I'm the same way. I've never done any drugs in my life. I don't drink. You know, there's, I've been married for 50 years. And it's just, hard work and being true to yourself. And again, use that word, be authentic.
We are going to take our second break. When we return, we'll step back even further to explore Derek's formative years, early inspirations, and the rise of Gentle Giant. So we'll be right back.
Picture a parade of broken-hearted pirates. Whoa, whoa, without a Jolly Roger. Picture all the captives on a desert island. Whoa, whoa, everybody's crying but you. Baby, don't you know your famous wedding? Calling you the queen of the seven seas. I committed the greatest crime. I've been wasting my time. The treasure I've been searching for, I left behind. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Picture a parade of broken-hearted pirates. Whoa, whoa, without a Jolly Roger. Picture all the captives on a desert island. Whoa, whoa, everybody's crying but you. Don't you know what every man is dreading? Tie them up in knots when you pass too near. I've only myself to thank if you make me walk the plank. But haven't you heard of a pretty good buccaneer?
And we're back with Derek Shulman. Um, After Gentle Giant disbanded, what pulled you toward the business side of music and specifically A&R at Polygram?
Well, I honestly, I had no idea that I was going to be involved in the music business side. In fact, I mean, I got a call um, from a friend of mine in New York who was from England, and he let me move to New York at Chrysalis Records, and he gave me a call, and he said, had you thought about? I was living in Los Angeles at the time. Had you thought about working at a record
What
company?
what year was that?
That was
Or
like
around what year?
that was about 81,
81.
1981,
Okay.
the year the band disbanded. Um, and my first answer was no. And he said, "Well, you know what? We're changing this company, Polygram Records. We're putting a department together called the Rock Department." And I told the head of the department about you and your what you've done and who you are and the people that like you. And he would really like to speak to you. And I said to my wife, "What do you think? I mean, I really don't want to be involved in the dark side of the business, the dark thing aside." But she said, fly out and give it a shot. So I went out to New York, which is where I am now, and interviewed for the job, and I was offered the job. And
Were you surprised?
I wasn't surprised. No, I wasn't surprised I got the job. I was surprised that I decided to stay because on the
Mhm.
first day, I remembered, I flew out there and got like a Airbnb for a couple of months before we all moved out. I had my daughter was born already. Um, and I remembered that first day in the office, going from office to office to office to office, and realized that the music business was not the music business at all. It was the business of music. And every office, every person in each office had their own agenda and had their own priorities, if you like. And to get, a champion in your record company to champion you had to have a consensus. And had I known that in Gentle Giant, I'd have I would have been more aware that that's what you had to do. So I think that we probably fell short because I didn't know that, but I realized that on the first day. And I remember the last, coming at that evening and the first day and calling my wife and said, I don't want to do this. And I'm coming home. And she said, no, no, stay the course. Just give it a shot, which I did, of course. And the following
And
year,
you said you've been married for 50 years,
almost 50 years. Yeah,
and your wife sounds like she's been more than a supporter, that she's encouraged you to do things you otherwise wouldn't have done.
absolutely right. She has been there with me, beside me the whole time. And whether I made mistakes or didn't make mistakes or made decisions, she's been there as a rock uh, for all the family. So I'm very lucky in that respect. But again, these are things that you ask me what are things that are important, commitment, authenticity, all these things that sound hokey, but they're not. So anyway, the bottom line is that
Well, they're the ingredients to success.
well, I hope so, but it seems like in today's world, um, and I'm not going to get political or even or say anything which is out of what we're talking about here. These attributes seem to be less important these days, which is a sad thing. And I would say this for the younger generation who are tech savvy and have grown up with, in computers and AI and God knows what else. These are great tools, but they're tools for you, for your person, not they're not you who you are. And that's something that's very important for them to
It's a
know.
distinction that the younger generation must embrace and understand.
Absolutely. Because the younger start to believe that this thing in their hands or fingers is something to do with them. Well, it's not. It's they have their own personality. Let it be who they are. Be who you are. That's the most important thing.
Their personal consciousness is their connection to the universe,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, it is. And I think that social media has been a good thing in a lot of ways, but on the balance of things, it is not a great thing because I don't know why we're getting into this.
It's a distraction.
It's a distraction, and I think it also promotes loneliness, which is very, very, and you need to, listen, when we were in a band, we were in a band. We were together. When we were in,
And it was you and your brothers primarily, right?
yeah, yeah, me and my brothers, and then we all lived in the same town. And we were when we weren't playing or recording or rehearsing or writing, we were out fishing together. I mean, we were there. We didn't text each other or put throw things on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. That was a different era, and I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with what is happening today, but you can be drawn into things that is not who you are, and that's something that the younger generation have to be careful about.
How did your background as a performer help you guide and understand artists from the inside out?
Well, as I said before, there was not much a band could say to me, no matter who they were. I at Simon Dupree, and Gentle Giant, we played huge venues, and we were massive in Europe. We played arenas in Italy and Germany and even Canada. So in that respect, we knew what it was like to play to a lot of people. On the other side of the fence, we knew what it was like to sleep in a van when we didn't have a hotel room. We knew what it was like not to get paid. So there wasn't anything a band could say to me that they could say you don't know what it's like. So that's something that, as I said before, I think they could trust me because I was and have been in their position in their situations, no matter where and how. Obviously not as big as, the bands. So I like Pantera or a Bon Jovi or a Cinderella or whatever.
Well,
But
that does bring me to my next question. You're credited with discovering or signing acts that went on to shape entire genres. Bon Jovi, Pantera, Dream Theater, I believe AC/DC. Can you share a standout discovery story?
um, well, I mean, Bon Jovi's one, but certainly I could give you a couple that should have happened but didn't.
Okay.
That's something that I've been asked a couple of times. And perhaps a band you may not know. There was a band, a Polygram, called the Dan Reed Network. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
No, I'm not.
Then maybe well, there's another band when I ran ATCO, a band called Enough's Enough. And they had their first album, and I got involved with them hands on, even though I was running the company. And they had this first album, and they were a superb band and wrote a brilliant record and had everything together. They were they were great, but unfortunately, drugs got in the way of their ultimate success, and they could have been as big as a Bon Jovi or a Pantera or a Slipknot or whatever other bands I've been involved in. But they allowed, or the manager allowed, the hardest drugs to basically pull them apart, and that they could have and should have been.
That's a tragic situation, just tragic.
That's tragic, and that's something that again, it's something to be aware of and wary of.
The late 70s and 80s were a wild time for the record business. Budgets, egos, and all. What were the biggest challenges in navigating label politics and changing trends?
Well, initially in the 70s, well, 70s, in the 80s, um, well, let me think. The pieces that were put together to break an album weren't that many. There was maybe, I mean, you had to have a great album, you had to have a band that could play, and you had to have a great manager, and you had to have, an agent that would get you great gigs, and you had two or three major outlets to market. You had MTV, which hit the scene in those days. You had radio. Um, and that was it. The jigsaw puzzle was only about 20 pieces. In today's market now, you have a million pieces. And to get the attention of a mass audience. And so it's very, very difficult to break through of the miasma of noise to become an important man. And I feel bad for certainly musicians who can really play that there's again, this gateway is kind of shrunken into a narrow pathway.
How did your philosophy for recognizing and nurturing talent differ from other executives of that era?
Well, I'm not sure if it did that well. I guess it did because, again, I could have,
Well, to start with, you've been there, done that as far as music, so
I could
that
have,
probably set you apart to begin with.
yeah, it did. But I guess I trusted my gut, I trusted my head, and I trusted uh, my feel about how a band was going to follow their dream. Um, you could do it for a lark. You could do it just to be in a band. But if you're dedicated and you say, okay, I'm going to do this no matter what, and that was John Bon Jovi when I met with him before he put the band together, and he had a song on the radio. He sat down with me, and I said, John, what is it you want to be? Who is it you want to be? And he looked me straight in the eye, and he said to me, I want to be as big as Elvis.
Hmm.
And when you hear an 18-year-old kid, I wasn't much older, But I looked at him and I knew he meant it. He meant it, it wasn't just saying coming out of his mouth, and him saying something which was just glib. He was going to put in that work to be as big as Elvis. And obviously, on the third album, when Slippery When Wet came out, and even further and going on further, he, I guess, in some ways, has become as big as Elvis. So he was dedicated to hard work his ass off and learn and do as much as he could to be who he is now. And thankfully, he still has his feet on the ground. So as does, as do other artists I've been involved in, like Elton John, for instance. Elton was in my band, and thankfully, he's still Reg Dwight to me,
Okay. Um,
which is another story, of course.
well, continue. It's interesting.
Well, it's in the book, of course, but Elton was a keyboardist in Cyber Dupree for a period of time. And when we told him we were going to evolve into Gentle Giant, um, he wanted to join. And we went up to myself and my brother Ray went up to Watford where he was living, and he played a couple of songs for us, Skyline Picture, and a couple of other things. And we went back on the train to Portsmouth, and we said that it's not the kind of thing we want to do, but but he's great. And at the time as well, when we were up there, he just met Bernie, and he told us that he's
Bernie
changed.
Taupin, his writing partner, his
Correct.
collaborator,
Yeah.
and
And
the two of them, just just fantastic. What they did together.
yeah, the best. And the best people. And he told us he was changing his name to Elton John. And we said to him, Reg, it's not going to work for you. And thank goodness we turned him down, because the next year he became Elton John, the superstar. And we were
with
struggling
with your song.
with, yeah, well, yeah, Scott, with other things, yeah, with your song and all the other hits that he had. But he remained friends up until even I saw him last year.
Oh, that's fantastic. Uh, and he's doing well health wise. I saw a recent picture of him and he looks great.
Yeah, he's
Um,
looking much better these days, which is better.
now with streaming dominating the landscape, what lessons from those earlier decades still apply, and what feels completely different?
Well, the problems are that there's no gateway to artists getting their music heard. However, that being said, when I started in a group, um, we played our asses off before we got a record deal. We on the south coast of England. We played 10 nights a week, literally. You could do three shows in a town. You could do a date, an evening show, a night show, and an all-nighter. And we became really good at it. And we got our fan base. So, even though it's very hard to get seen by a mass media, what you can do is go out there and play and play and play and play and get good, get better, and get great, and build your fan base that way. And that way, you'll have a career, and perhaps you'll break through the again my husband of what's going on.
All the noise.
Yeah, all
I
in
mean,
all,
isn't there like 100,000 songs a day being uploaded onto Spotify?
probably, I don't know. But but what you can do is have a career where you're loved by fans that don't care and what is happening on Spotify. They want to see you play live. And that's what both Simon Dupree and Gentle Giant had. We had a fantastic live bass. We'd that's where our I guess our following um, stayed with us. And in fact, in today's world, that's why I guess in some ways, um, that's why we're as probably as big, if not bigger now, because there's so many videos of the band playing on YouTube that we're being rediscovered by a new generation, as well as the hip hop world, which is amazing too.
We're going to take our 2 minute break and stay tuned.
I lost my head. It was not easy. Unknown, unread. It wasn't easy. And each day, each night, not knowing you're alright. I can't remember what I said. I lost my head. What will I feel? Maybe tomorrow. The time, not real. Hours I can borrow. So until I fall now, as long as how I can't remember what I said. I lost my head.
We're back with the 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 founder of Gentle Giant. Derek, take us back to your early life in Glasgow. What was it like growing up in a musical family in post-war Scotland?
Well, I was born in a place called the Gorbals in Glasgow, which thankfully I don't remember because I was only 2 years old when we moved from Glasgow. But my elder brother and sister were born pre-war, and it was like well, I don't remember it, but I can certainly remember see pictures of it. It was a tenement building where you had one toilet, one outhouse for a family for 8 families. There was no bathrooms. Uh,
Jeez.
yeah, well, listen, this is this is post-war in Glasgow in England, but we moved because my father was posted in Portsmouth on the south coast.
Oh, he was in the military?
Oh yeah, during the war, yeah, he
Oh,
absolutely, yeah. He was a sergeant major. He was a paratrooper. Uh,
boy, Sergeant Major, they're tough. I was in the military starting at 16 years old. Um, and the sergeant majors were more respected than the commissioned officers.
Well, he was effective. I mean, he was a paratrooper during the war, and so he was stationed on the south coast of England, and because Glasgow was such a horrible place to grow up. I mean, it really was a fourth world war country. We moved down to where he was stationed in Portsmouth, England, which is on the south coast. But even then, I mean, we didn't have much money. He was a jazz musician, and unfortunately was a bit of a drinker and a smoker, and so the money wasn't that forthcoming. So I remember growing up in, me, my brother Ray, and my brother Terry, we all slept in one room in one bed, and we didn't have a bathroom. We had, a toilet outhouse, and a Friday night bath. And I was the eldest of the second generation, so I had the clean water, and my second brother had the sort of the murky water, and poor Ray had the sludge on
Oh,
Friday nights. So I remember, growing up like this, and it was we were not. well, let me put it this way. We were not rich by any means. We were fairly poor, but nevertheless, we were very rich in having a loving family, that was most important to me. But my father was out playing every night in his jazz orchestra, and he'd come back after the gig, and
Which instrument did he play?
he was a trumpeter.
Ah, okay.
But he was a musical genius actually because he could
Like
literally.
Miles Davis, huh?
Oh, he loved Miles Davis, but he was able to pick up any wind instrument, anything that if it any horn or
Even reed instruments
instruments,
like
yeah,
clarinet.
absolutely, and master them within 10 minutes. And I guess in some respects, his DNA filtered down to his children. So thankfully, the house was full of instruments, and we all were very musical, every one of us.
Well, that,
Yeah.
that brings me to which artists, records, or instruments first captured your imagination. Before you answer this, I seem to remember at your concert in LA that you guys were not only multi instrumentalists, but you even all played the recorder.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Well, that's something that well, again, I wasn't sort of a master of a recorder. I played sax, but my first instrument was guitar. And I that's what I did. The Beatles inspired me, and my sister gave me my first Spanish guitar. But I asked my father, even though he couldn't afford it, to buy me an electric guitar, and he did. On
What
on
was your first electric guitar?
It was a Vox Shadow three pickup with a whammy bar for
Uh-huh.
20.
It was a God, I forgot the name of them. Never mind. So continue, please.
It was, for him to do that, he had to do on what was called hire purchase because we couldn't afford to buy it outright. And so every week or every month he'd pay a pound.
Did you
But
get an amp?
I saved up money. I got three part-time jobs when I was at school to pay for my amp. And it was a Watkins Dominator. It was a 15 watt blue Watkins Dominator. So I had my guitar and amp. And so that's when I started putting.
Do you still have these today?
Boy, do I wish. Are you kidding?
I'll tell you a real quick story. My mother was driving me up Ventura Boulevard, and this was early 1968 when Cream's Crossroads came on the radio, and it hit me like a lightning bolt. And I said, "I have to do this, Mom. Turn the car around." And just about 2 miles down from where our house was behind Taft High School was Ernie Ball Guitars. And we went in there, and the guy pulled a white 67 Strat off the wall and said, "This is the guitar you want. And if you want this, I'll sell it to you, but you got to promise me you'll never sell it." And I still have it to this day.
Wow. Well, that's a great story. But I wish I had the vault. However, in the same kind of flight, we when I put the group together, the first group of Simon
Dupree.
Simon Dupree, well, I had a friend at school who had a 1960 Strat,
Yeah.
and uh,
If you
he
only knew today, right?
well, the strangest thing is that he didn't it didn't work out with him. He wasn't that good, so he sold it to my brother Ray for I don't can't remember 20 pounds, which is equivalent of $30 back in the
Hmm.
day. And my brother unfortunately passed away a couple of years ago, but he kept
I'm sorry, man.
but he kept that Strat until for all these years. So thankfully that was, but I wished I had that first
Who
Vox.
who has it now?
His wife has it now, and she kept his belongings, of course.
And I mean, I'm sure it's worth 30, $40,000. And then with who he is, the price goes up from there.
Yeah, you know what? It was, but it was something that he was lucky enough to get because he played guitar better than me. Anyway, that was I was putting the band together, and again we played and we became Simon Dupree, and we got our record deal at, with Parlophone Records on the same label as the Beatles. So
Did you ever play the Cavern?
yes, we did.
Wow.
Yeah.
So back to my question, which artists, records, we know guitar captured your imagination, but which artists and records for were your earliest influences?
Oh, well, during in the household that I was in, jazz was always there because my father was
West Montgomery?
was an incredible guitarist. I mean, but we listened Shorty Rogers, Stan Getz, all jazz. Modern jazz was a favorite of my father and my elder brother Phil, but also classical music. My father loved classical music but I loved R&B and blues. So I listened to American Forces
Hey man,
Network.
I'm a blues musician, so
I love blues and R&B.
we have stuff to talk about.
So that's what I used to do is listen to Radio Luxembourg and American Forces Network as a kid in American music from England, which wasn't being played in America. Black music, which is you know, that was a whole different era, and that's where, for the most part, all of the bands that came through in the '60s from England all did the very same thing, including the Beatles. We all
Which was
listening to this blues records that came from American Forces Network.
so
And
Albert King, B.B. King, Freddie King, Albert Collins. I mean, the
Howlin'
list goes
Wolf,
on and on and on. Back
there's
to Robert Johnson.
Robert Johnson, Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters. Absolutely. We all,
Okay. Were there specific moments in your youth when you realized music wasn't just a hobby, it was your calling?
from day one. I
So as soon as you had self-consciousness, you knew music was your calling.
well, it's in the book, in my book.
Okay, well, I mean, but we're getting the nuggets before the book is out. So
I remember I was lucky enough, not lucky enough, I guess, smart enough. I went to a grammar school in England, and I got they there was a streaming at when you were 11 years old, and you were supposed to be streamed to be the elite of England. And in the second or third year, I had the careers master would go through to the kids and pupils at school and ask them where they were going to do, what they were going to be. And the kids in the school would say, I'm going to eventually be a professor. I'm going to teach. I'm going to be a physician. I'm going to be a
doctor, lawyer, or accountant, right?
lawyer." And I said, I'm going to be a rock star. And all the kids laughed and said, yeah, right. And this jobs master said, don't be silly, Shulman. That'll never happen for you. That is one in a million, and that doesn't happen for you. 2.5 years later, I came back after having been on TV and having a big hit, and I signed it up my autograph
Kites.
with Kites. Yeah.
You first found chart success with Simon Dupree and the Big Sound. What did those early pop years teach you about songwriting and performance?
Well, it taught us how to be entertainers, entertaining as well as getting our chops together musically. That's something that did us very well as far as Gentle Giant. We weren't in Gentle Giant. We loved to play. We pushed each other, both musically and personally to be great musicians, I hope. But we also loved to entertain. We had fun on stage, and I think that set us apart
The
from,
pajamas.
well, that's the jumpsuit is a whole different animal. But when if you saw us on stage, which you did, I guess,
I
we had
did.
fun, and we wanted the audience to have fun. So that's something that I think that apprenticeship, I hope gave to the what would be eventually became Gentle Giant.
Also, then came Gentle Giant and total reinvention. What inspired that shift from mainstream pop to complex, multi-layered progressive rock?
The boredom of playing the same things to an audience that just wanted to hear hits and not be able to expand our own personal horizons and getting better musically. That was happening all the time in the late 60s to all bands in England, not just, Simon Dupree. I mean, there was the League of Gentlemen became King Crimson. Band of Joy became Led Zeppelin. I mean, we're all getting better and listening to different things. And ultimately, all of these bands that started off, in the Move became ELO, et cetera, et cetera. We got better at doing things, and our horizons expanded to being a different kind of band, and bands that would become international bands, if you like.
Mm. The history is this in the book? Because I haven't got there yet.
Which parts are?
The history of these bands evolving and turning into the great big bands of the 60s, 70s, 80s, well, really 70s,
70.
60s and 70s. Um, do you cover that in the book, or
Well,
is
I don't think I do, but that was a fact. I mean, all of these bands, whether there was a band called Sin, which Chris, what was Chris Squires, and all these bands that ultimately became national or international phenomenon bands were in different bands and doing the tours and playing the things that we played, the places that we did, all the clubs all around Europe and becoming better and better. And ultimately, becoming and doing something which is much more expansive. Um, all of the groups that you see now, whether it was Led Zeppelin, whether it was Deep Purple, I mean, or Deep Purple, were a band called Episode Six, and both Ian Gillan and Roger Glover, we knew very well because they were in a group called Episode Six, and that's where Simon Dupree we played with them. So it was a whole scene that changed and evolved very quickly. It's a very
uh,
interesting.
yeah, that is
That would be
you were there. You were there. That's the most incredible part.
you're right in the
Uh,
middle of it. Absolutely.
if I was only 7 years older, ah, where I might be. Gentle Giant's music was fearlessly intricate. How did you and your brothers approach the process, balancing creativity, complexity, and cohesion? And this goes to your live performances as well.
Well, I think again, we rehearsed and we pushed ourselves musically, but we were naturally fairly musical. I mean, we came from a musical background, and we just worked really hard at
Your
what.
tuchus is off, huh?
Absolutely right, Gary. I don't know if I have another call at 12, so I'm not sure
Oh,
all this.
okay. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. Um, Derek, it's been a real honor having you on the Gary Dranow Show. Few artists have lived such a full circle creative life, from fronting one of prog rock's most daring bands to guiding the next generation of icons. It has been an honor, and my listeners, well, first of all, thank you for being on the show. I wish we had more time. Listeners, be sure to pick up Derek's upcoming memoir, Giant Steps, available soon wherever great books are sold. It's more than a story of music, it's a testament to passion, persistence, and the power of following your own creative path and being authentic. So, Derek, it was an honor, and maybe I can have you back because we have so much more to talk about.
Absolutely. Whenever it's good for you, man.
All right, stick around for just 1 minute.